Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. Today, we are going to be talking about something that I've actually been putting off for a little while. It's not serious or anything. It's not something that I should be thinking about this much, but I am. And that is my Pokemon team for Brilliant Diamond. This is a toughie. Okay, hold on. I have multiple teams made up. I'm so bad, and I don't know if I made a big mistake, but I replayed Diamond a couple of years ago, back in like 2019, and I made a pretty good team. They're right here. So I like that team. However, that kind of, like, in addition to all the Pokemon that I've used already up to that point anyways, it kind of dwindles any Sinnoh Pokemon for me to use down. And I've kind of come to the consensus that I want to use very specific Pokemon. But then there's a bunch that I'm still kind of like, well, I could use this or I could use this. It's stressing me out. I don't like it. One thing is for sure that my starter will be Torterra, or Turtwig, I guess. I used Piplup the first time I ever played Diamond. Loved it. Piplup's great. Piplup and its line is my favorite out of this. Torterra is my second out of it, but I've already used Infernape too, so I can't use that. I don't want to. And honestly, during my first playthrough, once I made it to whatever, like Stark Mountain with like the Battle Island or whatever, I ended up trading to get a Turtwig and Chimchar, and then I kind of had them, like, my original Diamond team was such a mess. It was like 10 or 15 different Pokemon at any given time. I kind of regret that because it basically makes me now have to like think real hard about what I actually want to use, because I never really like reusing Pokemon unless I'm kind of doing a throwaway playthrough, because I have very set specific teams that I like to carry on into the future. So I kind of have a weird thing with that, but I digress. My main starter is going to be Turtwig, and that's kind of setting the tone here. Second Pokemon I'm 1000% sure I'm going to be using, second Pokemon, is Pachirisu. Pachirisu is a Pokemon that I've wanted to use for a very long time, and it's like Rotom is kind of edging it a little bit because it's so versatile, especially now that it has its ghost typing swap out for whatever appliance it's in. However, I really want to use Pachirisu. I've wanted to use Pachirisu for a long time, but I kind of wanted to wait until we got back to Sinnoh, and this is my chance. If I back out now, I'm going to really regret it, and I'm never going to end up using Pachirisu. So those are the only two that I'm like pretty 1000% sure that I'm going to end up using. The next one is kind of a redo. Now, I had Piplup as my starter when I started Diamond and Pearl. Well, Diamond. And then my how old was I in 2007? I would have been, maybe, since Diamond and Pearl came out earlier in the year, I think I would have been probably 13 at this point. Dummy 13-year-old decided that it would be cool to not only pick a Piplup, but then also use a Bidoof. I mean, Bidoof was like, listen, I'm a little afraid that they're going to bring back HMs in this game, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Back in the original games, an HM slave or mule or whatever, it was necessary. So I kind of had a Bidoof that I evolved into a Bibarel, and that was cool, but also it was doubling up, and it's not like Bibarel does anything special that Empoleon can't do. But where things get really messed up is that I also caught a Weasel, and this is all in the span of like maybe the first day or two that I've been playing Diamond at this point. So I had in my original team, like as I'm playing through, Empoleon, or like Piplup, the Piplup line, Bidoof line, and the Weasel line. And I very specifically remember getting to like the marshlands around Pastoria and being like, why do I need a Floatzel? I'm not going to use it anymore. I already have Empoleon at this point. Why do I need this? And I ended up boxing Floatzel. So that's why, while it's not set in stone, I might actually use Weasel and Floatzel in this game. I'm not a huge, like, here's the thing. I love Weasel's design. Weasel's design is like, mwah, chef's kiss. But Floatzel's design kind of, it's like, it's not bad, but it's not exactly my most beloved water type Pokemon. That being said, I think it deserves a second chance, and so I'm gonna probably use Buizel. The second half of my team is just, quite frankly, a mess. I don't know what I want to do. There's a part of me that wants to use Houndoom. There's not a lot of fire type Pokemon in this region. Even if they add a few through like the underground hideaways, I'm not sure that they're gonna add enough that I enjoy using or want to use. So Houndoom's a very solid Pokemon that I think would be fun to have, but it kind of conflicts with another Pokemon that I really, really want to use. And that is Drapion. I love Drapion's design. Ever since it was first announced, I loved it, and I really want to use it, but it's a second Dark-type Pokemon, which is not in itself bad, but it is another Pokemon that is super weak to ground types, and that brings my weakness to ground type to 3. And one of the Elite Four members is ground type. Now, granted, I have Torterra, I have Floatzel at this point, so it's not like it's like out of the ordinary that I'd be able to like kind of handle it. And especially now, I'll be able to plan stuff out. I don't think Pokemon games are all that hard even back then, and they're certainly not going to be all that hard now. So I could work around it, but it's certainly one of those things where it's kind of starting to teeter a little bit. The other option that I have for that 5th slot is, well, it doesn't really solve my issue, but it kind of diversifies things just a hair, and that is Toxicroak. It gives me a fighting type Pokemon, which I don't necessarily need, but it kind of, I don't know, it's something different. Another option entirely is that I don't use Houndoom and I just use Drapion, and then throw on like Fire Fang or something like that if I need a specifically fire type attack. It's really hard for me to make this team for some reason. I don't know what it is. I've been stressing about it. I've almost made this video multiple times, but it always comes up in this weird thing. I don't know. But Drapion and Houndoom are kind of like competing against each other, but maybe could end up on the same team. I'm just not sure. The next Pokemon I've been thinking about using is Togekiss, which is a hard sell. Back then it was way harder because it's like, it wasn't fairy type, and Togepi is really hard to train without just being like, oh, I'm gonna throw it in the front and then like swap train it, like where it's like, oh, you bring it, call it back, and then have another Pokemon fight for it. But now that it's fairy type, now that the line is fairy type, and it kind of gets some good moves, and obviously Togekiss now, especially now that it's fairy type, is actually very, very good. I'm not a competitive player, but I know a lot of people use it in competitive play, and I know for sure that in Platinum, Cynthia gives you a like Togepi egg, so maybe I could use that. That being said, it depends, because if it has Hustle, that's fine. But it also maybe requires using an item that boosts accuracy to kind of counter the lower in accuracy of Hustle. But it would be better if it had Serene Grace. And that's because Serene Grace boosts the likelihood of secondary effects of attacks. And that's super, super good. So that's a toss-up though, because what if the Togepi egg that Cynthia gives you, if she even gives you an egg, does not have the Serene Grace capabilities? It's a bit of a toss-up, and not to say that Togekiss is useless at that point, especially for a playthrough, what am I even saying? I think it could be interesting. Togekiss gets some interesting attacks now that we're in like 8th gen and it's fairy type. Air Slash is good. Sky Attack is an interesting attack. It also gets Play Rough and Dazzling Gleam, so I'm not worried about it having good attacks. But I am a little worried that it'll be a tough grind to get it up to the point where it's actually useful. Now, at this point, I've basically created a team of 6, but I have some kind of reserves that I'm not 100% I'm sure I'm gonna use. They kind of come with some caveats. One, like I said, is Rotom. It could dethrone Pachirisu. I'm not 100% sure on that. However, the problem with Rotom is, at least in Diamond and Pearl, it is entirely a post-game Pokemon. You cannot get it during the main story. Now, granted, I'm pretty sure they're gonna change some stuff so that you can get all the Pokemon at some point, at least all the Gen 4 Pokemon in the main story, and they're not gonna do some wacky mumbo jumbo, especially with the Platinum decks. I guess that that kind of fixes the issue, but it doesn't really. Either way, I'm not terribly worried about being able to get Pokemon, but it is always a chance. There is always a chance that it's not immediately available, so that kind of throws in a little kink to it. The other Pokemon that I have been thinking about but not 100% sure about is Gallade. Gallade, you can, I think, technically get a Ralts. It's not an issue, I don't think, about that. Although it might have been like one of those like Gen 3 cartridge Pokemon. I'm not sure about that. Either way, I don't think it's that hard to get. The problem is the stones required to evolve Gallade and like a bunch of the Pokemon from like the latter half of the decks that are evolutions of older Pokemon, they're not to be seen in the main story of Diamond and Pearl, or really Diamond and Pearl presumably. So that kind of throws another wrench into my planning, because if I can't get the Dawnstone, I can't evolve a Kirlia into a Gallade. And at that point, why am I even using it if I can't use Gallade for the main story and using it against the Elite Four? Granted, if I could, it would be super useful because it's psychic and fighting, and that's like an extra thing. And honestly, at that point, I might use a team of Torterra, Floatzel, Pachirisu, maybe Drapion, and Togekiss, and Gallade. That's an interesting combination too. It's a weird team. I don't have a fire type, but I guess I could give I think Drapion can learn like Fire Fang or something like that. And even then, Poison kind of does some of the stuff that Fire does anyways, so I'm not worried about that. And anything that Fire otherwise would be able to do, if I had Gallade, I could take out like Ice types, for instance. So as you can see, my head is kind of all over the place, and I'm not sure what I'm gonna do. The constants are Torterra and basically Pachirisu. And even then, I've kind of tiptoed around the idea of maybe replacing Pachirisu, because I don't think, as much as it would be a bad idea to have two poison types, or not two poison types, two dark types, I think having two electric types would be even worse. So I'm not sure about that. Floatzel, I think, has a strong contention of staying on, because I do want to legitimately use it, and I think it deserves at least some sort of a chance. I love Weasel. Weasel's great. We'll see about this though. In any event, that is my rambling. I think I'm done. I don't know. This didn't solve anything for me. I'm just trying to get my thoughts out. It's hard building a team in Sinnoh, I think, because it's very frustrating for me anyways. I don't know. Either way, let me know what you guys are gonna do in your teams down below in the comment section. I'd love to hear your thoughts about my own team building, and maybe your teams give me an idea. It'd be cool to see what you guys think. And if you enjoyed anything I had to say, make sure to leave a like. I would greatly appreciate it. Lets me know that you want to see more of this kind of content from me. I will see you guys in another video, hopefully real soon. Have a good one.